For more than a century, the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde has been, cemented in our minds as this ultimate cautionary tale about
Oh,
science.
absolutely. The image is always the good doctor, a bit too ambitious, who accidentally creates a monster.
Exactly, a tragic victim of his own genius. But
Yeah.
if you strip away all the layers of adaptation and just go back to the source, back to Jekyll's own confession,
The story changes completely. It's not a scientific accident. It's a carefully calculated lifestyle choice.
it really is. Henry Jekyll wasn't a victim. He was the architect of a really complex system of addiction. He used Hyde as a total risk-free license to indulge every single desire he had.
All while keeping his own reputation spotless.
Yeah.
And that's the key. That's the engine of the whole story. He talks about this profound duplicity of life that he felt burdened by.
He had everything right. Large fortune, respected, successful. But inside he was hiding this impatient gaiety of disposition.
Right. He basically felt he couldn't be his full self in public. He had to maintain what he calls an almost morbid sense of shame about his own, very human impulses.
That pressure from Victorian society to keep up this grave countenance, it sounds unbearable. The internal split must have been immense.
It's the absolute definition of repression. And because society wouldn't let him integrate the two sides of himself, the respectable and the pleasure-seeking, he decided to separate them physically.
Which brings us to our sources for this deep dive. We have Utterson's grim investigation, Dr. Lanyon's. Well, his shocking testimony. But mostly we're focusing on Jekyll's own words, his full statement of the case.
And our mission here is to really get at the nature of the choice he made, because it was a choice.
It seems his motive wasn't about elevating humanity or some grand scientific goal. It was deeply personal.
It was pure self-interest. He calls the idea a beloved daydream. He wanted relief from the curse of mankind, this fact that these incongruous faggots were thus bound together in one person.
He's literally looking for a moral loophole. He wants the unjust to go his own way without bothering the upright twin.
Exactly. And when he finally does it, when he takes the potion for the first time, the language he uses is just incredible.
Oh, it's immediate gratification. He says the sensation was indescribably new and incredibly sweet.
It's the language of euphoria, of a first high. He feels this heady recklessness, a solution of the bonds of obligation.
And he knows it's not innocent. He calls it an unknown but not an innocent freedom of the soul.
The moment he tastes it, he's hooked. He says, "The wickedness of Hyde," and this is a direct quote, "braced and delighted me like wine."
Like wine, it's pharmacological, it's instant, it's pleasure. This sounds much more like addiction than a moral lapse.
I think it's impossible to read it any other way.
Mm.
And if you look at it through the lens of addiction, everything he does next becomes, well, chillingly rational.
He doesn't just invent a drug, he invents an entire system to protect the user.
A whole infrastructure.
Hmm.
He furnishes that house in Soho, instructs his servants to obey this strange, violent little man.
And the will. The will is the masterstroke. He writes that if Dr. Jekyll should disappear, his entire fortune passes to Edward Hyde.
It's a perfect safety net. He could, as he says, spring headlong into the sea of liberty, do whatever he wanted as Hyde, and then just transform back.
And the respectable Dr. Jekyll is completely insulated from suspicion. His justification was, quite literally, I did not even exist.
He had completely outsourced his shame. But of course, the very thing he designed to give him freedom ends up becoming his prison. That's the awful irony.
And that's the real turning point in his confession. At first, coming back to his better self is easy. Hyde is the temporary state.
But he notes the process insidiously relaxed, the grasp of conscience.
Yeah.
The pleasures Hyde was seeking, they start to escalate from just undignified to something.
Monstrous.
Yes, monstrous. The addiction is getting stronger, demanding more.
So Jekyll tries to quit. He chooses what he calls the better part, embraces the restrictions of his normal life, and he actually manages to abstain for 2 whole months.
2 months of sobriety. But the craving doesn't go away.
No, it gets worse. He says he's tortured with throes and longings, as of Hyde struggling after freedom. It sounds like withdrawal. Physical, painful withdrawal.
It's a caged animal. He gave his shadow self a taste of life, and now that part is fighting to get out. It's a dependency that demands to be fed.
And like any addict who relapses, when he finally gives in, it's so much worse. He says he succumbed in an hour of moral weakness.
And he makes that explicit comparison to a drunkard reasoning with his vice, ignoring all the obvious dangers just for that one hit.
And because he'd been starving it, Hyde emerges More unbridled, a more furious propensity to ill.
The monster didn't just return. It came back stronger, angrier, because it had been repressed.
Then the physical evidence starts to shift. Jekyll realizes the balance is tilting. The hard part isn't becoming Hyde anymore.
No, the difficulty isn't getting rid of him. In turning back, Hyde is becoming the default state.
He was being exercised and nourished while Jekyll was just the hideout, the cover story.
And the most terrifying sign that Hyde is taking over is when Jekyll says that if he even dozed off for a moment.
He always is Hyde that I awakens.
Yes, he was losing control even in his sleep.
And this all culminates in that moment of just spectacular random violence, the murder of Sir Danvers Carew.
Hyde, maybe feeling trapped or provoked, just explodes in a great flame of anger and clubs this old man to death.
With ape-like fury, the witnesses hear the bones shattering, audibly.
It's not just a crime anymore. It's the expression of what Jekyll calls pure evil. There's no motive beyond malice.
And the fallout from that is immediate, especially for his friends. Think of Dr. Lanyon.
Lanyon is the key. He sees the transformation. He watches Hyde drink the potion and become Henry Jekyll right in front of him.
And it doesn't just shock him, it breaks him.
It's a terminal trauma. He develops a deep-seated terror of the mind. The knowledge of what his friend really is. It's too much. His death warrant is written on his face, and he dies within weeks.
He declares Jekyll dead to him long before he actually dies. That's how profound the horror is.
Meanwhile, Jekyll is trapped. He's terrified of being permanently stuck as Hyde. He's growing physically weak. But the final nail in the coffin isn't psychological. It's chemical.
Right. His supply of the special salt he uses for the potion starts to run out.
And Poole, his butler, is sent all over London to find a new batch. But none of them work.
This part is just brilliant. Jekyll figures out that the original drug only worked because of an unknown impurity in that first batch.
The new supplies, which are chemically pure, are completely useless.
It's such a perfect metaphor. The impurity in the science allowed for the moral impurity, for the duality. The imperfection was a key ingredient.
So when he gets a pure chemical, it forces a single pure state. And since Hyde is now the stronger, more dominant self.
The pure salt traps him. He's locked into the body of a wanted murderer with no way back.
Even then, the war inside continues. Hyde is trapped too, and he hates the weak Jekyll. So he does these petty, ape-like tricks.
Scrawling blasphemies in Jekyll's books, destroying his father's portrait, just lashing out at the consciousness that's still in there with him.
But the irony is, Hyde's love of life is wonderful. He's terrified of being caught and hanged, so he's forced to commit temporary suicide over and over.
Transforming back into the Jekyll he loathes, just to escape capture for a little while longer.
Until the end. He's cornered in the cabinet, the potion's almost gone, there's no escape. So he takes the last of it and kills himself.
And Utterson and Poole break down the door to find the body of a small man, twitching, dressed in Jekyll's clothes that are now far too large for him.
That final image says it all. The clothes don't fit.
Yeah, Jekyll wasn't just a scientist who made a mistake. He was an addict who built this entire system to manage his shame and maintain a perfect public face.
And that struggle from the 19th century feels startlingly modern. Jekyll's need to wear that grave countenance.
Yeah.
It's the Victorian version of performance culture.
It really is. The pressure to maintain a perfect online persona, to avoid burnout by just repressing all your natural desires.
It drives people to secret lives, to self-medication. The things we push down don't just go away.
Right. The shadow self, as Jung would call it, just right. It festers, it gains strength in the dark, and it waits for a moment of weakness to seize control.
Exactly.
So we want to leave you with this final thought, and it comes directly from Jekyll's own devastating analysis. He admits that Hyde was smaller and younger than him because his evil side was less exercised and much less exhausted.
So what did that mean? The thing he called pure evil wasn't some huge, powerful monster. It was the raw, underdeveloped part of himself. The part he had neglected, starved, and refused to integrate into his life.
So the question to think about is, what part of your own personality might be slumbering right now? If you were suddenly given a solution of the bonds of obligation, how furious might your own caged, stunted self emerge?